Lily Dawson's life was a delicate balancing act of survival and sacrifice. At just 23, she was the sole provider for her younger brother, Max, and their ailing grandmother, Margaret. Their parents had passed away in a tragic car accident when Lily was 17, leaving her with responsibilities far beyond her years. But she rose to the challenge, determined to give her brother a life free from the shadows of poverty and pain. Living in a rundown apartment in the less forgiving part of town, Lily's days were consumed by hard work. She juggled 2 jobs, mornings spent at a cozy little bakery where the air always smelled of fresh bread and vanilla, and evenings spent waitressing at a bustling diner, serving customers who rarely looked her in the eye. The tips were meager, but she made every cent count. Despite her struggles, Lily's spirit remained unbroken. She had a fierce, quiet determination that everyone around her admired. But there were things she couldn't ignore. Lately, she'd been plagued by a persistent pain in her lower abdomen. It started as a dull ache but gradually sharpened, until she sometimes had to clutch her side just to breathe through the intensity. The pain came and went, never fully leaving her alone. At first, she tried to push it aside. There was simply too much to do, and too many people depending on her. Doctors' visits were for people who could afford them, not for someone already drowning in overdue bills. But the pain grew worse with each passing week, gnawing at her resolve until her exhaustion became something more than fatigue. It became desperation. "You can't keep ignoring this," Lil, her best friend, Grace, scolded one evening as they sat on the creaky old couch in Lily's apartment. Grace had been her rock for as long as she could remember, her cheerfulness and honesty a constant in Lily's otherwise unpredictable world. "I'm fine. It's probably just stress or something," Lily replied, forcing a smile that crumbled beneath Grace's stern gaze. "Stress doesn't make you double over in pain at random. It's not something you can just wish away." Grace's voice softened. "I know money's tight, but you have to take care of yourself too. You can't keep pouring from an empty cup." Lily knew her friend was right, but the thought of going to a doctor terrified her. Not just because of the cost, but because of the vulnerability it required. Sitting in a sterile office, answering personal questions, being poked and prodded. It was her nightmare made real. But that night, after Max had gone to bed, and the apartment was filled with the quiet hum of the city outside, Lily lay awake clutching her abdomen. Her breaths came shallow, her face pressed against the pillow to muffle her groans. The pain was no longer just a nuisance. It was a warning. The next morning, exhausted and shaken, she called the local clinic. It took her 3 attempts to even dial the number correctly, her fingers trembling with anxiety. When a friendly receptionist answered, Lily's voice came out smaller than she intended. Hi, I'd like to schedule an appointment, please." "Of course. Can you give me your name and reason for the visit?" "Lily Dawson. And I've been having some abdominal pain. It's been going on for a while now." The receptionist's tone shifted to gentle concern. "Got it. We have an opening tomorrow morning with Dr. Adrian Hayes. He's one of our best doctors." Lily couldn't help but imagine an older man with stern eyes and little patience for someone like her. But she couldn't afford to be picky. "All right. I'll take it. Thank you." The following day arrived far too quickly. As Lily approached the clinic, her nerves tightened like a noose around her neck. The sleek, modern building seemed worlds away from the shabby neighborhood she called home. Inside, everything was pristine. Too pristine. The white walls, the polished floors, the antiseptic smell. It all made her feel small and out of place. She sat in the waiting area, her knees pressed together as she fiddled with the strap of her worn-out purse. Around her, people scrolled through their phones or glanced at glossy magazines without really reading them. But Lily couldn't take her eyes off the door leading to the examination rooms. Each time it opened, her heart jolted. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. She was on the verge of bolting out of her seat when the door finally opened, and a nurse with a kind smile called her name. Lily Dawson. Lily rose to her feet, her legs feeling unsteady. She followed the nurse down a sterile hallway, the sound of her own footsteps too loud in her ears. They reached a small examination room, where the nurse took her vitals and asked a series of routine questions. Her voice was soothing, but Lily's anxiety only seemed to build with every moment. "Dr. Hayes will be with you shortly," the nurse said before exiting the room. Lily took a deep breath, her fingers clutching the edge of the examination table. Her eyes wandered over the medical posters on the walls, their images of anatomy both fascinating and terrifying. She had never felt so exposed and vulnerable in her life. When the door finally creaked open, Lily's breath hitched, but the person who stepped through the doorway was nothing like what she expected. He was young, far younger than any doctor she'd ever imagined. Tall, with strikingly handsome features and deep, thoughtful eyes. His smile was genuine, not the clinical politeness she had dreaded. And as he introduced himself, his voice carried a warmth that instantly put her at ease. "Hello, Lily. I'm Dr. Adrian Hayes. I understand you've been having some abdominal pain." Lily blinked, momentarily lost for words. Her mouth felt dry as she forced herself to nod. Yes. It's been going on for a few weeks now. Maybe longer." "Well, let's see if we can get to the bottom of it," Dr. Hayes said, his eyes full of sincere concern. "No need to be nervous. You're in good hands." Somehow, those simple words made her anxiety melt away. But what Lily couldn't know was that this appointment would lead her down a path that would forever change her life. Lily's initial nerves faded under Dr. Hayes's calming presence. Something about his demeanor felt reassuring, like he genuinely cared and wasn't just there to check off another patient on his list. Still, her anxiety clung to her like a shadow, her fingers fidgeting in her lap as she forced herself to speak. "The pain, it's mostly on my lower right side. It comes and goes, but sometimes it gets so bad I can't even stand straight," Lily admitted, her voice small. Dr. Hayes nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I appreciate you describing it so clearly. Pain like that can be alarming, and I'm glad you came in to get it checked out." He gestured toward the examination table. "I'll need to do a few tests to figure out what's causing it. It shouldn't take too long." Lily bit her lip and climbed onto the table, the cold paper crinkling under her weight. Dr. Hayes's instructions were gentle, his voice steady as he guided her through the examination. Though she couldn't shake her discomfort, his professionalism and patience kept her from spiraling into panic. Once the physical exam was complete, he sat across from her, a kind smile still on his face. "I'd like to run some further tests just to be safe. Blood work, an ultrasound. Things like that. It could be something minor, but I don't want to take any chances." Lily hesitated. "Will it cost a lot?" The words felt sharp on her tongue, laced with shame. A flash of concern crossed his eyes. "I understand medical expenses can be overwhelming. The clinic has programs to help with costs, especially for those without insurance. I can have our administrator go over those options with you." The relief that washed over her was almost overwhelming. She nodded, her shoulders sinking as if some invisible weight had been lifted. "Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's no trouble at all." Dr. Hayes's expression softened. "You shouldn't have to worry about that when it comes to your health." He typed a few notes into her chart before turning his attention back to her. "Can I ask how long you've been dealing with this pain?" Lily hesitated. "About 2 months, maybe a little longer. I kept hoping it would just go away." His gaze never wavered, his eyes full of genuine concern. 2 months is a long time to deal with something like this. You must be stronger than you realize. The compliment caught her off guard. No one had ever called her strong before. People often saw her as fragile, struggling, desperate. But strength, that was something she never imagined herself possessing. "I guess I just had other things to worry about," Lily admitted. "I'm taking care of my little brother and my grandmother. They need me to be okay." "Sounds like you carry a lot on your shoulders." Dr. Hayes's voice was gentle. But it's okay to take care of yourself, too. The kindness in his words tugged at something deep inside her, a part of herself she kept locked away for far too long. She offered him a shaky smile. I'm trying to learn that. Good. He stood, extending a hand. Come on. Let's get those tests done. I'll make sure they're processed as quickly as possible. Lily followed him down the pristine hallways, her nerves settling into something close to hope. It had been so long since she'd felt truly cared for, truly seen. Dr. Hayes's genuine concern was a balm to her soul, though she couldn't quite understand why. The tests were uncomfortable, but manageable. Blood was drawn, and an ultrasound was performed by a kindly technician who made light conversation to distract her. Through it all, Dr. Hayes remained nearby, his presence reassuring even when he wasn't speaking. After what felt like hours, Lily found herself back in the examination room, waiting for Dr. Hayes to return with the results. Her fingers drummed restlessly against her thigh, her thoughts running wild with worst-case scenarios. When the door finally opened, Dr. Hayes stepped inside, his expression calm but serious. He settled into the chair across from her, the computer screen glowing softly beside him. Well, the good news is the tests didn't reveal anything life-threatening, he began, and Lily's entire body seemed to sag with relief. It looks like you have a condition called endometriosis. It's a condition where tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of it, causing pain and other symptoms. Lily's brows knitted together. Is it curable? There's no cure, but it's definitely treatable. We can manage the symptoms with medication and lifestyle adjustments. In some cases, surgery can help if the pain becomes too much to handle. But the important thing is, you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together. His words were like a lifeline thrown to her in the midst of a raging storm. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. I was so scared it was something worse. He offered her a reassuring smile. You did the right thing by coming in. And I meant what I said. You're strong, Lily. Not everyone would keep going the way you have. The warmth in his voice reached places inside her she hadn't realized were frozen over. The world had been so harsh for so long, and the kindness of a stranger was more powerful than she'd expected. As he printed out some information about the condition, Lily couldn't help but glance at his desk. Unlike most sterile doctors' offices, his was decorated with little touches of personality. Books stacked neatly on the corner, a small potted plant thriving in the sunlight, and a sleek black laptop displaying something she couldn't quite make out. Do you like to read? She asked, surprising herself with the question. Dr. Hayes chuckled, glancing at the books. Absolutely. It's one of the few ways I unwind. I've always been a sucker for a good story. Me too, Lily said softly. It's nice to escape reality sometimes. His gaze met hers, something warm and understanding flickering in his eyes. I think everyone needs that. It's what keeps us going when life gets tough. He handed her a packet of information, his fingers brushing hers for the briefest moment. Take this home, read through it, and we can talk more about a treatment plan next time you're here. And if the pain gets worse, don't hesitate to call me, day or night. Lily nodded, clutching the papers like they were her only anchor. Thank you. Really. You're welcome, Lily. And remember, you're not alone in this. The words echoed in her mind as she left the clinic, her steps lighter than they had been in weeks. She couldn't quite place why Dr. Hayes's kindness had affected her so deeply, but one thing was certain. Her life had already started to change. The days that followed her appointment were a blur of exhaustion and reflection. Lily clung to the packet of information Dr. Hayes had given her, reading through it late at night after Max was asleep, and her grandmother's gentle snores filled the quiet apartment. Endometriosis. The word sounded clinical and foreign, but the symptoms described were all too familiar. It was both a relief and a burden to have a name for her pain. Lily had expected the anxiety to fade once she knew what was wrong. Instead, she found herself overwhelmed by the prospect of managing a chronic condition. The cost of treatments alone was daunting, and while the clinic's financial assistance programs were helpful, nothing was truly free. Yet, somehow, the memory of Dr. Hayes's voice, calm and reassuring, made her feel less alone. Her phone rang one evening just as she was finishing the shift at the diner. Wiping her hands on her apron, she pulled out her phone and hesitated when she saw the unfamiliar number. Against her better judgment, she answered, "Hello. Lily, this is Dr. Hayes. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." For a moment, her breath caught. She hadn't expected him to call her personally. "Oh no, it's fine. I just got off work. I wanted to check in and see how you were feeling. Any improvement?" His tone was casual, but genuine. It amazed her that he even remembered her at all. "It's been manageable," Lily admitted. "I'm still in pain, but I'm trying to follow the advice you gave me." "That's good to hear. I know you're juggling a lot, but I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself too." "I'm trying," she said softly. There was a brief pause before Dr. Hayes spoke again. "Listen, I've been thinking. I'd like to help you beyond just the medical aspect. I do some volunteer work at the community health center a couple of nights a week. We focus on providing more accessible treatment options for people in tough situations. I think you'd be eligible for a program we're developing that could make treatment a lot more affordable." Lily's mouth went dry. It sounded too good to be true. "Why would you do that? I mean, why go out of your way to help me?" "Because everyone deserves proper medical care, regardless of their financial situation," Dr. Hayes replied. His voice was steady, but there was something deeper in his tone, something she couldn't quite place. "And because I know what it's like to feel like you have no one in your corner." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. For so long, she had carried her burdens alone, convinced that asking for help was a sign of weakness. Hearing someone acknowledge her struggle with such sincerity left her momentarily speechless. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Thank you. I mean it. Just thank you." "It's no problem. I'll get you more details at your next appointment. And if you need anything before then, just call me. Seriously, I mean that." "I will," Lily promised, her voice barely above a whisper. When the call ended, she stared at her phone, her heart pounding. The kindness Dr. Hayes had shown her was a lifeline, something precious she hadn't realized she needed. But it also left her feeling strangely conflicted. What kind of doctor went so far out of his way to help a struggling waitress from the wrong side of town? As the days passed, Lily kept her promise and took better care of herself. She adjusted her diet, took the medications Dr. Hayes had prescribed, and even managed to rest more despite her hectic schedule. The pain didn't vanish, but it became more manageable, a dull throb instead of a stabbing ache. At her follow-up appointment, Dr. Hayes greeted her with that same genuine smile. His eyes held a warmth she wasn't used to seeing, especially from someone who didn't know her anything. "Good to see you, Lily. How's the pain?" "It's better," she admitted. "Still there, but not as bad." "That's progress. I'm glad to hear it." He leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving hers. "So about that program I mentioned, it's officially up and running. If you're interested, I can sign you up today." Lily nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. I'd really appreciate that. I figured you might." He slid a clipboard across the desk. "Just a few forms to fill out, and then we'll get everything set up." Lily took the pen and started scribbling her information, her hands shaking slightly. As she wrote, her curiosity got the better of her. "Why do you do this? The volunteer work, I mean. Most doctors wouldn't bother." Dr. Hayes' expression turned contemplative. "Because I know what it's like to feel powerless, to have nothing and no one, and because I want to make a difference in the lives of people who deserve more than they've been given." The sincerity of his words left her stunned. He spoke with such conviction, his eyes darkened by some unspoken memory. It was then that she realized his compassion was not born from pity, but from understanding. "Was it hard?" she asked cautiously. getting to where you are now." He chuckled, though the sound was laced with something almost bitter. "You have no idea. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. My mother worked 3 jobs just to keep us fed. College felt like an impossible dream. Medical school, that was another level of struggle. But I had people who believed in me. Without them, I wouldn't be here." "So now you're trying to be that person for someone else," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "I guess you could say that." He offered her a smile that was both gentle and sad. No one should have to face their battles alone. For the first time, Lily saw him as more than just a doctor. He was a man who had fought his way to success through pain and hardship, only to turn back and extend a hand to those still struggling. The realization made her chest tighten, her admiration for him deepening with each passing moment. By the time she left the clinic, Lily's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Dr. Hayes' kindness had reignited something within her, a spark of hope she hadn't felt in years. But there was still so much she didn't know about him. His generosity, his humility, his genuine concern for her well-being. It all felt surreal. And as much as she tried to convince herself that she was nothing more than a patient to him, her heart stubbornly refused to believe it. She would soon learn that the man who had become her lifeline was not just a compassionate doctor. He was something far more complicated, and his connection to her life was deeper than she ever could have imagined. Days bled into weeks, and Lily found herself anticipating her visits to the clinic with an eagerness that startled her. Her health was gradually improving under Dr. Hayes' careful guidance, but it wasn't just the physical relief that kept her returning. It was him, his unwavering kindness, his gentle humor, his determination to make her feel safe. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lily was beginning to believe that she deserved more than the bleak existence she'd accepted for so long. The sense of isolation she carried like armor was slowly melting away, replaced by something warmer, something softer, and that terrified her. She'd heard too many stories of people being kind only to use it as leverage later. It was a lesson she'd learned the hard way, trusting the wrong people only to be discarded when she was no longer convenient. But Dr. Hayes was different. His kindness felt genuine, untainted by selfish motives, and that made her feel vulnerable in a way she wasn't ready to face. One evening, after another exhausting shift at the diner, Lily found herself sitting at her rickety kitchen table, staring at her phone. The urge to call Dr. Hayes was irrational and reckless, but it pulsed within her like a living thing. He had told her to call him if she ever needed anything, but that was just something doctors said, wasn't it? But she couldn't shake the memory of his words, his gaze steady and sincere as he told her she wasn't alone. It was a lifeline she wanted to grasp, even if it meant risking rejection. Before she could second-guess herself, her fingers were already dialing his number. It rang twice before his voice came through, smooth and reassuring. "Lily, is everything okay?" The concern in his tone nearly broke her. "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry for bothering you. I shouldn't have called." "You're not bothering me at all," he said, his voice gentle. "I'm glad you called. What's on your mind?" She swallowed, her throat dry. I needed someone to talk to. It's been a rough day. Do you want to tell me about it?" Lily hesitated, the words stuck in her throat. But something about the way he asked made her believe he genuinely wanted to know. So she let herself be honest. "I've been trying to balance everything. Work, taking care of Max and my grandmother. And even though the pain is better, some days it's just too much. I feel like I'm failing all the time. Like no matter how hard I try, it's never enough." "I hear you," Dr. Hayes said softly. "You're carrying a lot, Lily. And the fact that you keep pushing forward despite everything is nothing short of incredible. But you need to be kinder to yourself. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to ask for help." The sincerity in his words made her chest tighten. "I don't even know what asking for help looks like anymore. It's always been just me." "It doesn't have to be," he replied. "You've been taking care of everyone else for so long that you've forgotten you deserve to be taken care of too." The silence between them stretched, not uncomfortable but heavy with unspoken truths. Lily felt the sting of tears pricking her eyes. She had been running on empty for so long. She'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone genuinely care. "Lily?" he prompted gently. "I'm still here," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Thank you. For listening. For everything." "You never have to thank me for that," Dr. Hayes replied. "Just promise me you'll keep fighting. You deserve a life that makes you happy." His words settled deep within her, like seeds planted in soil she had thought was barren. As their conversation drifted from her struggles to lighter topics, Lily found herself smiling more than she had in years. She learned that Dr. Hayes loved old blues music and could cook a surprisingly decent lasagna. In turn, she told him about her favorite books, her dreams of becoming a writer someday when life wasn't so crushing. They spoke until the moon hung high in the sky, the world around them fading into the background. And when they finally said goodbye, Lily felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Hope. But hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered by harsh reality. And reality hit hard the next morning when she arrived at the diner to find her manager waiting for her, arms folded and a scowl etched into his face. "Lily, I need to talk to you." Her stomach twisted. She'd seen that look before, the one that usually preceded bad news. "Sure. What's going on?" He sighed heavily, as if preparing himself to deliver a speech he'd already rehearsed. "We're cutting hours. Business has been slow, and we can't afford to keep everyone on for the same amount of time. Your shifts are going to be reduced." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. "But I need those hours. I barely make enough as it is. I'm sorry, but my hands are tied." "You can still work weekends, but weekday shifts are going to be limited." Lily fought to keep her voice steady. "I understand. Thanks for letting me know." She stumbled out of the office, her mind racing. The extra hours she'd been clinging to were gone, snatched away by the cruel hands of circumstance. It felt like every step forward she made was followed by a landslide of setbacks. By the time her shift ended, her nerves were frayed. She picked up Max from school and brought him home to their grandmother, her thoughts still churning. She needed a miracle to make ends meet. When her phone vibrated later that night, her first instinct was to ignore it. But when she saw Dr. Hayes' name on the screen, she couldn't help but answer. "Lily, are you okay?" His voice was filled with concern, as if he could sense the turmoil within her. "No," she admitted, the single word carrying the weight of her despair. "Everything's falling apart." "Talk to me," he urged. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out." And so, for the second time, she found herself confiding in him. Only this time, it wasn't just about her pain. It was about everything. The struggle to keep her family afloat, the never-ending weight of responsibility, and the fear that no matter what she did, it would never be enough. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. It was filled with understanding, compassion, and something else, something Lily couldn't quite define. "You're not alone in this, Lily," Dr. Hayes said at last. "I meant what I said before. I'm here to help you, in whatever way I can." And this time, she believed him. Lily didn't sleep much that night. Her mind was restless, replaying her conversation with Dr. Hayes over and over like a scratched record. His words were comforting, yes, but they also carried a weight she didn't know how to handle. For someone who had grown accustomed to standing alone, the idea of someone genuinely wanting to help her felt both miraculous and terrifying. But as morning crept in through the dusty blinds of her cramped apartment, the reality of her situation slammed into her chest like a sledgehammer. No matter how well-intentioned Dr. Hayes was, his kindness couldn't change the fact that her hours at the diner had been cut, or that her grandmother's health continued to decline. Bills were piling up faster than she could count, and her own pain had become a constant, gnawing ache she couldn't afford to prioritize. Lily forced herself through the motions of the day, her exhaustion made worse by the haunting thought of what would happen if she didn't find another source of income. Her grandmother's medications alone were enough to cripple her financially, and every night Lily lay awake listening for the labored breathing from the next room, praying the older woman would make it through the night. Max seemed to sense the tension too. His usual chatter was quieter, his little hands clinging to hers like he was afraid she might disappear. Lily's heart twisted at the thought of failing him. He was only 8, too young to carry the weight of her worries on his small shoulders. "Mommy, are we gonna be okay?" Max's voice was barely a whisper, his dark eyes wide with uncertainty. Lily forced a smile, though it felt more like a grimace. "Of course we are, sweetie. Things are just a little tough right now. But I promise I'll figure it out." He nodded, but the fear didn't leave his eyes. And it was that look, that heartbreaking expression of doubt, that finally shattered the last of Lily's pride. She couldn't keep pretending she could handle everything on her own. If she kept pushing herself like this, she'd break. And then what good would she be to Max? To her grandmother? It was a quiet afternoon when her phone rang again. This time, she didn't hesitate to answer. Dr. Hayes. "Hey, Lily. I just wanted to check in. How's everything going?" The concern in his voice was genuine, like he truly cared about her well-being beyond just her health. It made her chest tighten with a mixture of gratitude and unease. "I'm managing, but honestly, things aren't great. I've been trying to find more work, but nobody's hiring right now." "I'm sorry to hear that," he said, and she could almost picture the furrow in his brow, the empathy in his eyes. "Listen, there's something I wanted to discuss with you. It might be a bit unconventional, but I think it could help." "What is it?" "Would you be interested in doing some part-time work for me?" The question left her stunned. "Work? Like at the clinic?" "Not exactly. I have a foundation I've been building for a while now. It's still in its early stages, but the goal is to provide better access to healthcare for people who can't afford it. I need someone to help me with the organizational side of things, keeping track of applications, contacting potential donors, that sort of thing. It's remote work, so you can do it from home." Lily's mouth went dry. "Why me?" "Because you understand what it's like to be on the other side of the system. You have a perspective most people can't even begin to grasp. And frankly, I think you'd be amazing at it." His words left her speechless. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Like her struggles were worth something, like her experience had value. "Dr. Hayes, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," he replied. "I don't want you to feel obligated. But if you're interested, I can send over the details tonight." Lily's hands trembled. Yes, I'll think about it. Thank you. Really. It's my pleasure, Lily. And even if you decide it's not for you, I'm still here. You're not alone in this." They spoke a little longer, mostly about the foundation, and how he was trying to build something that could truly help people like her. The passion in his voice was undeniable, his dedication shining through every word. And for the first time, Lily felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. That night, she opened the email Dr. Hayes had sent her. The job description was clear and simple, outlining tasks she could easily handle with a bit of effort and training. More importantly, the pay was better than what she made at the diner, and she could do the work from home while caring for Max and her grandmother. But it was the final line of the email that made her breath catch in her throat. "Whatever your decision, please know this offer comes with no strings attached. You owe me nothing, Lily. I just want to help you build the life you deserve." Lily stared at the screen until her vision blurred with tears. She wasn't sure if she was crying from relief or fear or something else entirely. All she knew was that the offer felt like the first real chance she'd been given in years. The following morning, she responded to Dr. Hayes' email with a simple, heartfelt message. "I'd like to give it a try. Thank you for believing in me." Within hours, he had her set up with everything she needed to start. The work itself wasn't complicated, but it required focus and dedication, two things Lily had in abundance. She poured herself into the tasks he assigned, feeling a sense of purpose and pride she hadn't experienced in years. Days turned into weeks, and Lily found herself growing more comfortable with her new role. Dr. Hayes checked in on her frequently, not just about the work, but about her well-being, her family, her dreams. And the more they spoke, the more she found herself looking forward to their conversations. But it wasn't just his kindness that drew her in. It was his integrity, his unwavering commitment to helping people, and the quiet strength beneath his calm demeanor. He was a man who had built himself from nothing, and despite his success, he remained humble and genuine. Lily's admiration for him grew with each passing day, but it was more than that. It was something deeper, something terrifying and wonderful and undeniable. And when she finally admitted it to herself, it was like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. Lily's life had taken on a new rhythm, one that didn't feel so suffocating. With the part-time work Dr. Hayes had offered, she was finally able to pay the bills without constantly worrying about what meal she'd have to skip next. The work itself was fulfilling, challenging even, but in a way that made her feel alive. The foundation's purpose resonated with her, its mission to help those who had been left behind by the system striking a chord that made her want to contribute everything she could. And then there was Dr. Hayes. Their conversations were growing more frequent, more personal. What had begun as check-ins about her progress and well-being had evolved into late-night discussions about dreams, fears, and everything in between. He was so much more than she had initially thought. Yes, he was wealthy and successful, but those weren't the things that made him special. It was his unwavering kindness, his fierce dedication to making the world a better place. She couldn't deny the truth any longer. She was falling for him, and it scared her to death. Because falling in love meant vulnerability. It meant giving someone the power to break her. And Lily wasn't sure if she could survive another heartbreak. Still, she couldn't stop herself from longing for his calls, for the warmth of his voice, and the way he seemed to genuinely care about her life. It wasn't just pity or charity. He respected her, saw her strength even when she couldn't see it herself. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the diner, Lily received a message from Dr. Hayes asking if she could meet him at the clinic. The request was unexpected, especially since she hadn't had an appointment scheduled. But his words were clear, polite, and if she was reading them right, slightly nervous. When she arrived, she was surprised to find the clinic nearly empty. Dr. Hayes was waiting for her in his office, his expression unreadable. "Hey, is everything okay?" Lily asked, her heart pounding with anxiety. "Yeah, everything's fine. Better than fine, actually." He gestured for her to sit down, and she did, her eyes searching his face for some clue as to what this was all about. "Lily," he began, his voice steady, but with a hint of vulnerability she'd never heard before. "I've been thinking a lot about everything you've been dealing with, and I wanted to do something that might help make things a little easier." He reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder, placing it carefully on the desk in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Inside was a formal offer for a permanent position within the foundation. Not just part-time work, but a full-time role with a salary that made her eyes widen in disbelief. "Dr. Hayes, I don't understand. This is so much more than what I've been doing." "Because you've earned it," he said simply. "The work you've been doing is incredible, and I can't imagine running this foundation without you. I want you to be part of this, officially, with the stability and security you deserve." Tears stung at her eyes, and she shook her head, her emotions a tangled mess. "This is too much. You've already done so much for me. I can't just take this like." "You're not just taking anything, Lily. You're earning it. You're talented, hardworking, and you care about people in a way that's rare. This isn't charity. It's an opportunity, and it's one you deserve." The sincerity in his voice made her throat tighten. She wanted to believe him, to accept the gift he was offering without feeling like it was some cruel joke. But the fear of trusting someone only to be hurt again was like a vise around her heart. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered, her gaze dropping to her hands. "Why do you care so much?" He was silent for a moment before speaking. "Because I know what it's like to feel alone, to struggle and wonder if things will ever get better. I've been there, Lily, and I've been fortunate enough to find a way out. Now I want to help others find their own way, including you." His admission was unexpected, and it chipped away at the wall she'd built around herself. But there was something else in his eyes, something that made her heart race. "And because I care about you," he added softly, his voice almost a whisper, "more than I probably should." Lily's breath caught in her throat. The room seemed to shrink around them, the air thick with emotions neither of them seemed ready to confront. She wanted to tell him she felt the same way, but the words refused to leave her mouth. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her hands trembling. "I never expected. I mean, you're this amazing person who's done so much for me. And I'm just me. Just you." He shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "Lily, you are one of the strongest, most resilient people I've ever met. You've been through more than most people could handle, and you're still standing, still fighting. That's not just you. That's incredible." The intensity of his words left her breathless. The thought of someone like him caring about her not just as a patient or an employee, but as a person made her feel both terrified and exhilarated. I care about you too," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "But I'm scared. I've been hurt before, and I don't think I could survive that again." "I understand," he said softly. "I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give, but I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." The honesty in his eyes broke through the last of her defenses. For the first time, Lily allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have something good in her life. They spent the rest of the evening talking about the foundation, about her new role, and about what the future could look like. But beneath it all, there was something more, something unspoken but undeniably real. And when she left the clinic that night, the world felt different, brighter, as if the heavy weight she'd been carrying had finally been lifted. Dr. Hayes's kindness had given her more than a job or financial security. He'd given her hope. And for the first time, Lily allowed herself to imagine a future where happiness wasn't just a fleeting dream, but a real, tangible possibility.